Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. It's Carpo. My camera's kind of low. It's No Shave November, in case those of you who don't know. It means don't touch the beard during November. If you push the beard up really far, it looks even bigger. Alright, so check it out. My videos are kind of, I'm not running out of subjects, I'm just running out of subjects that I'm interested in talking about, because some of the things that I've been into lately are just personal, very personal things, personal changes, living in the light of what I try to speak about, the way I like to be. And I don't generally talk about my subscriptions, and I don't talk about the people that I subscribe to. I mean, a lot of folks will talk about other channels where so-and-so said this and that. The reason why I don't is, it's not because I don't watch people, it's because it's really hard for me to find people that I can relate to. And I have some folks that I will watch. Now, there's one guy in particular that I watch, and he has some really good things to say. He always makes a video every day. His name evades me at the moment, but he does his videos at like 4:44, and I think that he's a really nice guy. He's got some really good ideas, but there are certain things that he says that just don't quite click, as if, well, that wouldn't work. And I'm not putting him down. He has, I mean, what I'm saying is that I subscribe to him and I still watch his videos. They're long videos like mine, and I generally watch, you know, as much as I can of them. Just like people probably do with mine. I don't expect people to watch the whole thing. But he was talking about the World Trust today, which I'm not very familiar with the World Trust. I don't know exactly what it is, but he's talking about dividing it among all the people. I kind of cringed when I heard that, because I thought, there's a very novel, effective thing that people think might help, like to distribute the wealth, share the wealth. Now, I have other folks that I listen to that I enjoy their points of view too, but they say the opposite. They'll say opt out. So when you piece those two together, what I mean by opt out is, if there's a world trust that has money in it, let's say, we already know that money is hypothetical. It's all fiat money. It's currency. It doesn't mean anything. You could literally flood all the money from the corporations back into the communities, and what would happen? Inflation. That's just how it works. Everything is the hidden tax everywhere. Inflation is the hidden tax. Most people don't even know what inflation is. They think that inflation is something that just naturally occurs in a monetary system. How many of you have actually, who aren't aware of this, have actually ever considered what inflation is? It means that your money is becoming worth less and less, and then they slowly raise the minimum wage as if it's going to compensate for that. But I'll tell you, the minimum wage has not doubled since I was young, but food has. Now, not to get off track, what I'm saying is that now when I see it from that point of view, I understand that currency system will never get us out of our problems. So taking money that doesn't exist in the first place and giving it out to people is not going to help. Now, taking that money and using it to buy, say, food, or to put energy into changing certain things, that might help. But giving people money just never worked. And this is why people are so opposed to the system of welfare in our country. And that is a very touchy subject most people won't even tackle, because you've got a lot of people in this country that can't afford to make ends meet, and that they need welfare in order to survive. It even gets so extreme for some people, they really do have kids so they can have more tax credits. And I know that's not 100% of the reason, but it has been. There have been documented cases of people, just like farm workers, would have kids to help on the farm, and help with the family. People will have children in order to help get more government assistance. This is very rare, but it does happen. Why I take the extreme point of view there is because these are the people that they always call out. They always say, people are just having kids, they're just trying to take money and they don't want to put anything back into the system. And they don't understand because they've never been on welfare. I have a deep I guess, empathy for those people who are not financially able to support their families, and there's a very, very touchy subject there, because you have one side saying, well, they just need to get up and do something, get a job. And I hear that a lot. And people need to get out and get a job. Now, it's easy for Joe Blow living in the city who has a job, who has himself established and a family to fall back on. So money is not the solution. Money is never the solution to our problems. It doesn't matter how much we have, because you can print, and it's called fiat money, the money that's printed without any backing. The reason why these things happen is because they're printing more, printing in excess of what's actually existence. I believe that less than 1% of the money in the world is actually in currency form. So if you were to even take all the gold in the world, it wouldn't even add up to a portion of the money that we have out there, because it's all a game. It's all a game that we play. And people are just tied into it. So how do we resolve the issues in the world? How do we feed the people? How do we really make this work? From the 80s, we talked about, back when there were a lot of commercials running in the 80s about feed the hungry, Save the rainforest came a little later, and it became these movements: save the whales, save the rainforest, feed the hungry. The things that really get to me are the fact that we're going out into space. We're exploring other planets. We're sending out probes to the edge of the galaxy to try to see what's there. And there's scientists seriously talking about where we would go and terraform if our planet was in jeopardy. Fuck all that. Sorry about the language, but fuck all of that. That is the most ridiculous stuff that we could spend money on. NASA is a joke. It was a great idea back when they started. People were interested. They wanted to go into space. They wanted to know what was there. Well, we know what's there right now. The same thing that's right here, in our hearts. We understand the macrocosm and the microcosm. We understand fractals a little better. We understand that the universe is very symbolic, and that the planets are symbolic of the organs and the body, and everything works in unison. So the reason why we were reaching out to the stars is because we were lost. Religion worked really good for people for a long time, but eventually people started to ask more questions. They wanted real answers. They didn't want to have faith. They wanted answers. They wanted proof. And the illusion that had been pushed for so long in society had been lifted, the veil. And this happened with television, radio, internet, electricity, all these things that have helped us to move forward quickly and exchange information quickly. You can't have one person start to spread a rumor and then have him cut down and have the rumor disappear, or have one guy who tells a town exactly what's true and what's not, which is what happened in the past. Now we're finally free to understand things on our own, but we don't know where to go or where to turn. So humanity turned to space, because we don't even know what's in the bottom of our own oceans. I think we've explored less than 2 or 3% of our own oceans, and we're spending trillions of dollars to fly junk out into space that ends up burning up in the atmosphere. And I'm not questioning why we did it, because I understand it. But now we need to look back on it and say, this is a waste of our time and resources. We need to figure out how to turn this technology into something to help the people. We don't need to spend, millions of dollars on one spacesuit out of this nice fancy fabric. Why don't we take that fabric and build tents for people who don't have homes because they were knocked over by earthquakes or tsunamis? And the people who are suffering, the people who are hurting, even the people on welfare in our own country and in other countries, the people who are starving, who are we to know, whether they're in the... I should say, I've heard people say, well, they shouldn't live on the coast. I've heard this a lot, like there's a tsunami or there's a huge hurricane, and people say, oh, they shouldn't live there. No, that's the most shallow, short-sighted comment a person can make. You know, it's only the people who live in a comfortable area that understand that. Very few people can pick up and move their families to another country or another state on a whim. You know, we have things that tie us down, and sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's family, and sometimes it's just a love of where we live. You know, we can't go live in this box hiding from the world and worrying about what could happen. You know, you might move out to the flatlands so you can, you know, the highlands so you can avoid the ocean, and then you get a tornado. I mean, there's no escape from the bad things that happen. So people who are poor, who live in bad areas and have bad things happen to them, just the same way, it's circumstantially they're poor, they're broke, their environment that they grow up in, and their economy is not functioning properly. And it's really a shame when we look at other countries and say, well, look at them, look at what they're doing. Oh God, they're rioting and they're mobbing, and oh, look how destructive they are. And then you find out the true story, that they've been suppressed, just like we have, by their leaders, but much, much more extreme. You know, people in this country complain about lack of freedom. Sometimes I just want to slap them, you know, not literally, figuratively, but to a point. You have to voice your concerns when things aren't going well with your government. But you can't dwell on all the negativity and all the things that work against you and what you want to do. And that's I think, what each person does. They say, which laws help me and which ones hinder me? And I want to keep the ones that help me and get rid of the ones that hinder me. Or if a group of people that I'm associated with say that this law is bad, then I'm just going to believe it's bad without reading it or understanding it. We are so opinionated, and we think that we know. You know, that we think that I guess our freedom is suppressed, right? And our freedom of speech is suppressed. The reality is, many other countries have it so much worse, and we really have it pretty damn easy here, all considered. As long as we hang on to that, we need to stick with it, and we need to keep voicing our opinions the way we do. But some places you do that and you get shot. So, what I'm trying to do here is paint a picture of the world, of different countries under different leaderships, different histories, different religions, and figure out what's important to them. Because when we picture feeding the world, you know, helping the world, I think a lot of people have this vision in their mind that the rest of the world wants to live like Americans do. And that's just not true. The ones that do just don't know any better, you know? And we wanted to live like Americans. And then we did it. And guess what? We're tired of it. A lot of us are tired of it. Us, the people. You know who I'm talking about. Not the ones who are stuck in the material world, who are still obsessed with making a dollar and at the cost of their fellow man, but the people who've seen through the illusion. You and me. The folks who are actually willing to talk rationally about differing opinions in order to come to a resolution that helps everybody. Because the ultimate thing that man can do is serve man. Man's not here to simply serve a fictional God without any repercussions for their actions. Man is here to help man, because man is in the image of God, right? So therefore, man should be helping man. And this is the ultimate service to whatever you might call God, is service to each other. And it's so hard to do, because people are so selfish. Every one of us is. There's no person, I hear people talk all the time about how giving they are and everything, and a lot of these folks end up being so attached to giving because it's the image that they have of themselves as this giving person. It makes them feel better, and that's fine. But you have to realize that not everybody's giving, but not everybody's a taker. In the middle are people that just want to live a normal life. So when you feed the rest of the world, it doesn't mean that you have to build them big cities and buildings. It doesn't mean that we have to expend all these resources to build these giant, cities. In fact, we should not do that, because we need to see our mistakes that we've made here. And a lot of countries have taken our mistakes and, tried to not make the same ones. Just as a lot of states within our own country have seen what other states did wrong and tried to build upon that, make their bridges better, And this is what society does. We see things that are wrong and we try to improve on them. But we have to ask, to what end are we improving this? So, to tie this back up, no, it's not about the money. It's not about giving money to the people. It's not about spreading wealth. Money is nothing. Money is paper. You cannot eat it. However, the only reason money can buy resources is because of the balance of funds. And when you understand the money system, you understand that there's no way we could divide the money in order to, people would waste it. Some people would hoard it. It's just how people are. Money is not what we need. We need to take the resources and the time. Because ultimately, what does money represent? Money represents labor, okay? It's supposed to. Of course, for the banking cartels, it doesn't mean a damn thing except taking it from the people. Not into that. Money itself represents labor. It represents the work. Look how hard I worked. And unfortunately, one guy can hold up $50 and he could have worked his ass off for that $50 for 10 hours. And the next guy's got a stack of hundreds, 10 grand, and he made it in 3 hours selling a house or something, So money is not a determining factor of labor, but we use the money to represent labor. So what do we need to do? Well, we have to have trade. I've had debates with people over money, and I say, well, it'd be nice to get rid of everything, but we have to have some form of trade. It's potential energy is what money is. And what I mean by that is it has potential to give you pleasure through food or action or things you want to do, but it's potential because it's stored in there. It's potential energy because you worked for it, and then rather than taking the food that you worked for, say if you were a farmer, you harvest your food, and then you have your food, that's your result. Well, now you can store the money aside and get the food when you need it. That's great. It's worked through history, but, the funny thing is that there are places, natives would trade wampum. There were a lot of cultures that would trade seashells. And, people were pretty darn honest, Eventually, when we got into coinage and we started, using silver and gold, that was the best representation because at that time, the value of gold and silver represented how much effort had been put in to mine that. And that was consistent throughout history. Now, with all the machines we have, there's a lot more mining capability. The value of silver should be more than gold because there's less silver than gold. There's just not as much mined. And just the fluctuating values of the metal mean nothing, is what I'm saying. The value of gold and silver are not what they are. They're really not. If you go back to the way things were, say, a few hundred years ago, the values of silver and gold will be worth about the same as they were then, because that value is consistent. But since we use a lot of gold and silver in industry, that whole thing changes. So what do? We can't give gold and silver to people. They can't eat that. We can't give them paper. What can we do? Well, we can focus our energies as a group wherever possible to assist and help, to get off our asses and actually physically make an effort to help people. Whether it be making something at your home that you're good at, a craft, and distributing it to people who need it. Maybe you're good at sewing and you get a bunch of fabric and you make some nice blankets to give to people. All these little things we do, they just kind of perpetuate this system that we can't seem to resolve. It's like we're feeding into it, kind of like helping with the homeless shelter, You don't feel like you're getting any resolution because you're in the homeless shelter feeding them soup, and then the next day they'll be back for soup again. How do we get past that barrier? I don't know, and I should just end this now because I guess it's one of those things that really doesn't have an answer yet in my mind as to how to really help people. But whether there's a World Trust Fund or not, I don't think that money's ever going to do it. No amount of money thrown at a problem has ever solved the problem. It always covers it up. And somewhere, somebody always loses out in the end. No matter how much money we throw at a problem, eventually somebody loses out. And this is why I am so... this is why I believe so strongly in not taking more than your share. Even if you have the option to acquire a large amount of money and it's not harming anyone, you think it's not harming anyone, in the end it is. Someone is always paying the price when someone else, say you win on stock, you do well in stocks. You're doing well on your stocks, but somebody else is losing. And it's kind of a gamble, you know, we gamble as humans, and I just think if we took more of our time and put it into trying to change things rather than trying to just perpetuate things the way they are and just get by, you know, step up to the plate. And I don't know, man. I don't know how to do it, but I'm doing my best. So I'm out. Peace.